Welcome, everybody, to the FLUF World AMA of the month. If this is your first one, great, welcome. You're about to have a lot of fun. My name is Knux, and I'm joined here by Alex, the CEO of Non-Fungible Labs. We're both big FLUF World aficionados and lead various parts of the overall FLUF World mission as part of Futureverse. In terms of what this AMA is all about, we start with a little bit of kind of just some general updates on our flavors of the month, the highest priority things we're focusing on. This isn't the alpha farming extravaganza, though I'm sure, when we get to the questions about halfway through, you will hear plenty of wins. I think that there are plenty other interesting questions that we can get out there. So when we get closer to that, I'll give some guidelines. But between now and then, really the objectives of this AMA are kind of to set the scene for what we're working on, align with our community and our broader community, even folks that aren't following us closely, on some expectations over this next couple of quarters, maybe even over the next year, depending on what we're talking about. Meant to build some trust, through regular, authentic and transparent communication, which is something that, we've received feedback about. And so obviously, this is our third month in a row knocking one of these out monthly. So hopefully you're feeling good about that. Want to just give you some updates on the haps around what's going on within our Futureverse ecosystem, get you excited about some things that are coming, and ensure that there's really this authentic connection between folks like Alex and myself, kind of the leaders driving some of this work with you all. I know we sometimes take that for granted that this whole world of Web3 is an interesting one where the people who are actually running the business that you're supporting are as readily accessible as they are, available on Twitter, either via these spaces or, you see me and Alex and other folks from the team in the Discord just about every single day. So definitely a fun, unique world we live in. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that is a very difficult thing. But all that to be said, do you like how I just kind of danced around that?
Yeah. Expertly worded.
Thank you. So I guess before we get started, like I said, the high level, super high level agenda is essentially Alex and I'll kind of ask him some interesting questions, and we'll go through some high level updates around things like buzzies, gods and goblins, general higher level FLUF World happenings. Then we'll go into some of the questions that you all submitted ahead of time. And then after doing a few of those greatest hits, we will go into our normal AMA format where we will call people up to talk to us on stage. So don't worry about raising your hand yet, but I'd say in maybe 25 to 30 minutes or so, I will cue everybody to start raising your hands and asking to come up, and that's where the real fun begins. Amazing. So, Alex, the first kind of place for us, I think, to start is, it's the beginning of a new year. In my mind, I've still forgotten that we're actually in 2023, but that's because it actually hasn't started. The year of the rabbit is officially a couple of days from now. And that's when the real start of the year is. So as we move into this year of the rabbit, Alex, what are some things that we should be expecting from a FLUF World and broader perspective?
Yeah, I guess the biggest kind of macro level update is to give an update on all things Futureverse. As everyone will have seen, late last year we announced that Non-Fungible Labs, along with 8, 9, 10 other companies, I lose track, are all merging together under the banner of Futureverse to unite our various expertise across asset creation, AI, communication, gamification, base level protocols, blockchain architecture, et cetera, all under the one banner of Futureverse to essentially build a full suite company for the metaverse. But in saying that, we're not the ones that are going to be building the metaverse. It's going to be us empowering you to build the metaverse. I think that's the one big misconception that a lot of companies make, is they come out and they're like, yep, we're going to be the ones to build the metaverse. There's only one metaverse. It is, the next iteration of the internet, and it only works if we allow for everyone to meaningfully contribute to it. So that is one of the biggest aspects of our vision, is to actually empower everybody to contribute to building. I actually just want to take a moment to give a a big shout out to everyone that's been involved in bringing this roll up together. It has been a Herculean undertaking. Well over 100 shareholders across all of the different companies that are being brought together, and just an incredible amount of work to align not just the company missions, processes, tools, structures, etc., but to do so in a way that kind of respects and safeguards everyone's roles within the existing companies. So, yeah, just want to give a massive shout out to Aaron, Shara, Marco, Dan, the various company leaders, David, Hal, Scott, Andy, Dorian, Ben. I lose track, there's so many names. Nicole, Jerome, all the people that have been helping bring all of this together. It's just been a monumental undertaking, and it's really great to see, the sort of, I guess not finish line as such, it's almost more the start line in sight, but of actually finishing the Futureverse roll-up and allowing us to move into the next stage of all of this development. So there'll be a few big updates coming through this quarter on all things Futureverse. But then I guess speaking more around Non-Fungible Labs, FLUF World, and our existing suite of products to date, what you'll see this year in particular is quite a big shift from the kind of traditional Web3 sort of meta game experience into something that's far more focused on world building and actually driving a lot of immersive experiences within these sort of game environments. So a big one to touch on there is the Third Kingdom, which is one of the key, game experiences that we're providing, which provides a sort of social framework of interoperability of assets to connect different siloed game experiences between, Atom, AFA, etc. And we will be rolling out some key information around Third Kingdom, including resource economy, land mechanics, etc., this quarter as well. So stay tuned for the Third Kingdom white paper as that comes out over the next couple months. I think that's probably the gist of it as a high-level update, and then we'll delve into some product-specific updates. I'm sure there's a lot of people eager to hear about things like Buzzies and Gods and Goblins.
Yeah, no, that was great, Alex. I really liked that first part where you were giving like an Oscar award acceptance speech, kind of like.
I didn't
like
thank God.
My family at home. Yeah, I know. Hey, well, you still have an opportunity. I haven't kicked you off the stage yet.
I want to thank Atari God because I can see you there, and you're the closest thing to God that I believe in.
I wasn't sure if you're going to say that or Aaron, so I'm glad you went with that. Cool. Yeah. Beautiful update. Lots to be excited for. And I think the biggest thing to summarize from what you're saying is really that move from, we're still going to like that meta game that you're talking about never goes away. It's just being, there's a greater level of depth. And I think that's what a lot of people have been waiting for and are excited for is, when can I actually take these assets and start doing things with them? Again, as Alex said, you'll hear that over the next, chunk of time. I mean, he said next quarter, next couple of months, however you want to frame it. Sooner than later, you'll understand how these pieces start to fit together. That answers a lot of the questions that we won't be answering today as well around things like root economy and stuff like that. That's a broader Futureverse conversation, but it's deeply tied into this conversation around the Third Kingdom as well. So lots to come sooner than you might think around some of that. That being said, we're going to move to some very specific stuff in the realm that, Alex and I spend a lot of time in every single day, which is product updates for FLUF World Plus. I say FLUF World Plus because theoretically Gods and Goblins is its own beast. But we'll start with our biggest item of the day, which for FLUF World at least, which is Buzzies. So, Alex, I'd love, we've got a few different things we can talk about. I think refreshing folks who are listening on our journey to date from Buzzies would be a good start. And then we can kind of give a frame on what Buzzies are, how they exist from like a complexity standpoint, in these different families, things like that. And then talk a little bit about some things that people can expect in the coming weeks for Buzzies.
Yeah, Buzzies has been an incredible journey to date. It's obviously been a long one. We're not hiding that. But yeah, I guess want to first reiterate that Buzzies was a free airdrop to Party Bear holders. Not something that's a massive kind of revenue generating project for us, but as always, we are looking for ways to continue to deliver value to our early holders in ways that then also allow for new entrants to come into the ecosystem at different price points. So as you will have seen, the first family of Desert Buzzies have revealed. There's 5 families in total, and we're very much kind of treating each of these families as sort of almost its own sub-collection in terms of the level design quality going into these. Some of you have actually kind of seen, that there is an incredible level of quality, but that it's very difficult to properly kind of make out in the way that they're presented on OpenSea. And that's something that, we've taken as feedback. Obviously, the end goal for us is to, integrate all of these into more of a, game environment where you can interact and view them dynamically and with various stages of utility. But that doesn't mean that, we're oblivious to the fact that, 99% of engagement with these assets still happens through platforms like OpenSea. So we've taken this feedback and developing a turntable 360 viewer within the underground that will allow people to actually view these assets in far greater detail. You'll see that rolling out very soon as well. But coming back to kind of the rollout of Buzzies as a whole, just want to, I guess, address some concerns that have been raised around the timeline. To be completely candid, the Buzzies team, we've intentionally not over-resourced on. It's obviously, in terms of the quality of the project, something that we have kind of tried to push the boundaries on as much as possible. But considering, the other various projects that we have in development that are kind of, especially when you look at things like Third Kingdom and Gods and Goblins that have, a far bigger scope to them, it's important that we are kind of managing our internal resources properly to the places that it makes sense. So just to give an update on that side of things, the next family is the irradiated family. You'll start to see some of them towards the end of the month, and then the rest of the families rolling through February. So don't worry, this is all, it's all in very much final stages of completion. The Buzzies are all slowly making their way home, and I think you'll all be very, very happy with what you see just in terms of reveal, but also B, as we start to introduce more of the mechanics around utility for them and the role that they play within the Third Kingdom.
Beautifully said. And maybe to highlight, you were kind of giving some time information there. One thing is, I think we've gotten some feedback when I was looking over the questions around why is there so much time between the first family and the second? Well, I mean, in terms of the grand scheme of things, we could have just waited, until right now to release the Desert family. But I think that, we heard the community and wanted to get something out there that was ready, that was well built, and all of that, time, effort, etc., was put in by the end of the year into early this year. So I think that was kind of also
that
we made.
Our team is predominantly New Zealand based, and for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, I think, normally around July, August is, everyone goes on holiday. Start of January here in New Zealand is generally when people take a few weeks off. And, we have an incredibly hardworking team that put in incredible hours to deliver everything to the community. But we also want to make sure that we are, valuing the team properly and giving them space to take breaks when they need, to spend time with their family and loved ones and ensure that they're not burning themselves out. So if you look at, the last month as a whole, really at least 2 weeks of that was kind of holiday period. So that's something to kind of take into account in terms of timelines.
Yeah, super well said. This is our second full week back. as a whole company. So good to know. Well, I feel like that does it right now for Buzzies. We can always come back in some of the main questions later on. Gods and Goblins. So Gods and Goblins is about to do some pretty insane, interesting stuff. If you've been following along on Twitter, you've been getting, and are probably nothing AMA, you've been getting some information from the Goblin Queen around what some sort of pledge and sacrifice is going to look like involving some of the Seekers that have been lost in the void. So I think this is a good time to talk through that at a high level, but also potentially maybe answer some frequently asked questions that I can throw your way. So I guess before we do that, before I go into questions, Alex, would you like to give a little bit of an overview around the pledge and sacrifice and how that's going to work?
Yes, of course. So as we announced in Probably Nothing earlier this month, the pledge and sacrifice stage will be going live next month. We have already taken some community feedback in terms of how those mechanics were working and have restructured it slightly, as you will have seen from the latest update. So that means that the pledge and sacrifice mechanics are much more kind of bound together, and it keeps it essentially open for people to sacrifice as many void seekers as they choose and claim, the respective amount of amulets, as opposed to being kind of limited to one amulet per wallet, and then that thus encouraging people to actually split their wallets, which is not from a kind of safety security perspective. We always want to ensure that we're trying to follow best practices to make sure that people are being as safe as possible. There are, advantages to splitting assets across different wallets. There are also disadvantages as well, obviously, and we want to kind of make it as easy as possible for people to engage how they see fit. So we did tweak some of the mechanics there based on some community feedback to make that basically far more kind of open and real time in terms of the way that the pledge and sacrifice work. So just to give a few more details, the pledge and sacrifice will all be happening through the Gods and Goblins website. You can jump in and pledge your coming through. You can jump onto the website, pledge as many void seekers as you see fit to sacrifice to the Goblin Queen, and just want to clarify that the rarity of the void seeker itself does not affect the pledge or sacrifice or reward mechanic. It's the Queen is only interested in quantity, not quality. Those who sacrifice will be rewarded with amulets based on the number that are sacrificed, and these amulets are important tokens that will have multiple benefits as we continue to roll out Gods and Goblins project and the Third Kingdom. Just to speak to that utility a little bit, a few key things that we can kind of identify at this stage, and there will be plenty more to come as the game components continue to evolve. But some key things that we can address right now is that amulets will allow for voting rights within Goblin Society. Certain key decisions around shaping the direction of the Goblin Society within the Third Kingdom will only be up to those that hold amulets. There will be exclusive access to certain mints for amulet holders, and there will be exclusive utility within game as well. And those will obviously be tiered to the respective value of each of those amulets. Let's see if is there anything on the Gods and Goblins front there that I've missed.
I don't think you missed anything. I guess I just maybe looking again at kind of frequently asked questions. I think a lot of folks, you highlighted it. This is about an amulet, right? Mm-hmm. It's a sacrifice for an amulet, not a sacrifice for a goblin.
Exactly. And actually there was a question that I saw pop up, which was basically, do amulets, reveal into goblins? No, the Goblin Mint itself will be the most unique and varied mint to date that we've done, and the goal behind it is not to fall into a kind of, I guess, more traditional NFT mint mechanic with a very limited supply. This is something that we're rolling out to help drive mass adoption. So there will be, massive amounts of goblins that will be available to everyone at, very kind of accessible pricing. But it will also, obviously, holding an amulet will provide a multitude of benefits throughout that process as well.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, Gods and Goblins is not just another collection. I think that's the most succinct way I can say that. There's a lot of innovation.
And Jesse has definitely been in goblin mode in his office, trying to make himself a goblin as much as possible. So the tools that he's playing with, we'll be introducing to the community as well, to allow people to really take on their new goblin identity.
What happens, and you don't have to be specific, obviously, you know that. For those who choose to stay loyal, is there anything in store for them, to the seekers?
No comment.
All right. There was a question on here. Figured I'd ask you, give you the opportunity, and you passed the test. Cool. I don't think that there's anything you missed from a Gods and Goblins standpoint. Just looking at some of the questions that people asked around Gods and Goblins, I'd be curious if you could answer some things like how DOT will be used for Goblins, or if there's any improvements that we've done to the DOT tool since the Next Legends.
Yeah, so DOT, for those who don't know, is a proprietary tool that we've developed in-house called, stands for the Dynamic Object Transformer. It's used to produce an incredible range of unique assets, kind of focusing on developing uniqueness on a sort of biological level, as opposed to, with many of NFT collections, it's based on which accessory they have. There will obviously be abilities for people to accessorize their goblins, both from a kind of cosmetic and functional perspective. But that the focus is to ensure that every kind of goblin is unique, down to the biological level. Strip it naked and it's still unique, just like every person. Unless you're identical twins, but we won't get into that. So in terms of DOT, we have spent a lot of time developing it further after TNL, after the first mint with TNL, and also, I guess, just to touch on TNL, everything that we've kind of learned and continued to develop in terms of new features and new levels of uniqueness through the Gods and Goblins process will also be introduced to the TNL team in terms of bringing more uniqueness and diversity to that collection as well. But the renders and the variability of assets that are coming through from the Gods and Goblins collection right now it's honestly mind-blowing. And there is a component, I guess, that with goblins, we do have the ability to get a bit more extreme with variability than we would with kind of standard human characters. So expect to see some pretty wild stuff coming out of the Gods and Goblins pipeline.
Yeah, it's one of the beauties about doing like a somewhat humanoid character, but also having the magic of the metaverse on our side is we can sort of do whatever we want. And when you put Jesse and other people at the helm, you really push the boundaries of what is possible or what should even be done.
Yeah, there's many times with Jesse where I have to kind of rein him in on his crazy creativity with certain projects to keep it within a certain guideline, but I'm not doing that so much with Gods and Goblins.
Exactly. Another question that's on here for Gods and Goblins, I'm just going to answer because it's really simple, is will the Seekers' backgrounds be swappable before the Pledge and Sacrifice? No, they won't.
Not before, but shortly afterwards they will, yes.
Yeah. Perfect. And then it looks like the rest of these I think you've actually covered. So we can come back, and again, if you have other questions about Gods and Goblins, we can answer those when the public questions start rolling in. So we only have a couple more things really around announcements. So Alex, there was a recent competition for the Party Bear Road Trippin' script. Looks like we have the ability to announce some of those winners. I don't know if the Twitter post has already gone out. If it has, Riley, if you don't mind posting that would be awesome. But yeah, Alex, go ahead and tell us more.
So there was we ran a competition to basically help write the script for the next stage of the Party Bears road tripping animation. We had originally planned on just selecting one winner to kind of drive the script for that, but we actually found, looking through the scripts, that merging two of the proposed scripts together yielded a much greater result. So congratulations to Ox Marty and Crabman, if those are your real names. We're actually just doubling the prizes. So each of you will both be joining Dylan, our head of content, and his team in the writing room to assist the development of script and storyboard for episode 2. But on top of that, you'll both be receiving a Party Bear, a Den, and 2 Desert Buzzies. Looking forward to creating with you guys.
Super sick. That was a really cool competition. I'm glad we came up with that, because I think that content is going to be a beautiful thing for us to continue to roll out now that we kind of have all of these different models built. The world is kind of our oyster to build stuff with the community. So then we have 2 other things I wanted to announce, and I'm not going to be able to translate days in my mind because everything's in New Zealand time. So the first is the Year of the Rabbit Sounds of the Underground is in maybe like an hour and a half. It's at 12 p.m.
Half an hour.
It's in half an hour. That makes a lot more sense. So that's starting in half an hour in the FLUF Discord with your favorite DJs. There should be an announcement in there, but definitely something to be looking forward to. And then, Alex, you can help me if I say these days wrong. So on the 23rd of January, New Zealand time at 11 a.m., there will be a quiz, a Year of the Rabbit quiz with some seekers as prizes that will be on the FLUF World Twitch. So 2 very exciting things to be looking forward to. So all that being said, very exciting times, Year of the Rabbit. It's time for some community questions. So if you haven't already, I start to see some people raising their hands. I'm going to invite a few of you up, and we're going to get some live questions. For some reason, my brain is just not registering what time it is. So I think we have at least a half an hour to where we can kind of go back and forth with the community. But yeah, I'm going to add a couple of you at a time. We can do some questions. If somebody else is speaking, I'm adding you in bulk because it's just easier this way. But please, if somebody else is speaking, don't speak over them unless we're having kind of a group conversation. So no credits. I added you first. Welcome. How are you doing, buddy?
Good, thank you. Thank you, everybody. And just keeping in theme with what you mentioned earlier, I'm actually in a tent camping at the moment. So yes, New Zealand summer is wonderful.
It is now, finally. That first week was pretty diabolical.
Yeah. No, the last week has been amazing. So we timed it well. I had a question about Gods and Goblins, and if you can't answer it, or if it's going to be answered soon and I just have to wait, that's fine. What I was wondering about was the difference between the amulets is quite large, from 1 to 5 and then up to 15. Is there any indication as to why the gold is so much better? And is it better to have 1 gold, or is it better to have 15 bronzes? Has that been answered, or will it be answered soon?
It hasn't been answered currently, but that's something that we'll kind of continue to release more information around as we get towards the mint. In general, I would say, when we're always scaling the level of utility to match the actual respective value of each of those assets. So you can expect that the gold one would have, 15 times at least the level of utility as a bronze one would.
Yeah, well, because that makes it at mint price for Seekers, that's like 1.5 ETH for a gold amulet, which is
it's a big boy.
It's quite a lot. It must be the record for this ecosystem, is it?
Yeah, I think that must be. It's obviously a slightly different mint mechanic. It's not like a direct mint, but in terms of your analysis there in terms of respective price is accurate.
All right. Okay. I'll go mortgage the house. Thanks very much.
Well, the good news is, theoretically, right, you should already have some seekers potentially. That's kind of the other part too. Nobody's saying, hey, go sweep the seekers floor.
Absolutely. Some of those void seekers have some really cool backpacks, and I'm really torn as to what to do with them. So
yes.
It is a fun part of the mechanic.
And we joke, but I would never encourage anyone to play the NFT game with funds that they do not have.
I do joke. It was either that or sell children. I mean, which one's better?
Free labor.
That's not. Yeah, we didn't talk about flufflets.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Great question. All right, Gyuzu or Juzu? I think I added you second. How do you say your name?
Yeah, hey, what's up, guys? It's actually that's my digital name. You can say Juzu, you can say Gyuzu.
Cool.
As long as I understand who you're talking to, we're good. But
well, welcome.
Yeah. So actually, thank you. The first question was gonna be something that I think you guys answered, which was whether or not we can switch backpacks and tools or like attachments to the seekers before the burn or after. And it sounds like it's gonna be like, we're just gonna have to lose whatever the seeker has attached. We're not going to be able to switch them before the burn.
That's
right. Ooh, okay. That makes things so much harder. But all right, the second question is a little bit more general on the whole Futureverse ecosystem. And my question was, how do you guys see, like, at what point and how will we be able to maybe somehow put food on the table by working inside the ecosystem? Like, is that a thing? Is monetization of outside of the ecosystem, like with real money kind of thing? Is it supposed to happen? Is it going to happen? If so, how do you guys foresee that happening? Will there be a point where someone can just become a Futureverse influencer or player and be able to afford the living doing that alone?
I think that's when we look at kind of gamification in the metaverse as a whole, I think, when you properly scale it to mass adoption, there will be, I imagine the percent that are actually kind of making significant money from it will be relatively small, but it's those that are hyper engaged. There's a kind of a pyramid of engagement and involvement in gaming that kind of scales from people that are, casual gamers to collectors to content creators to tool makers, etc. So I guess it's really kind of down to the level of involvement of the individual. But in terms of what we're working on currently with the Third Kingdom, I imagine that as we start to delve more into the kind of resource economy and how things like crafting of unique assets works, there is, as long as you're creating things that are, in demand by others, then there is definitely an opportunity there for you to earn, cryptocurrency, which obviously can be exchanged for real money and pay the bills. At least to date, we can't pay the bills in crypto, at least for most people. But so I guess broadly speaking to your question, like I wouldn't, there's always opportunities for people to, to monetize their involvement, and those that are, earlier adopters, I think have an advantage in that respect. But as you look at kind of traditional gaming as a whole, you can see elements of this within current games and traditional games, although it is still housed within the kind of closed garden of most games nowadays, whereas obviously building gaming out on a decentralized infrastructure means that your ability to actually transact and sell various assets is much greater.
Yeah. Do you mind if I add a little bit to that?
Oh, go for gold.
Yeah, I think the other piece is that I wanted to highlight from what you said is that while I think a lot of people have this insight of, because this is a blockchain based, we're building our own blockchain, we have games that'll exist on that blockchain, that the goal is to put food on the table, right? Like it is to make money. I think for us, actually, that is a happy byproduct. And maybe I'll say that incorrectly, but the goal for us is to build beautiful experiences kind of on the fringes and the iterations on this next layer of what the internet can be. So when we think about this, we are really thinking along the same lines of the best of the best web experiences, games, etc. We want to make things that keep people engaged, because I think for as many people as you might think of that want to make money, from playing a game, to earn tokens that they can exchange, to pay the bills, however that ends up looking like. There will also be people who want to very much just enjoy experiences with their friends, play casually, etc. And within the Third Kingdom, broader within Futureverse, etc., there will definitely be a place for both of those, even within the same game. I think that we want to make sure that there are casual gamer experiences as well as more like elite gaming experiences.
Yeah, and I think that's, if you go back to, I guess, 2020, 2021, there was a lot of focus on play to earn. And then, the narrative around that shifted a lot because just in the name itself, play to earn sets the definitive end goal as earning, which means that people will play even if they don't enjoy the playing because it's, a job for them. And that's where, the narrative kind of shifted more to play and earn, whereas, the end goal is share enjoyment through playing. But the potential for earning is just a byproduct. And this even ties into, business strategy. If, many of you will be familiar with thought leaders like Simon Sinek, who, when it comes to defining the why behind a business, and, the most successful businesses have a really strong why that empowers people and, creates product champions out of their consumers. If your why as a business is to make money, then you're never going to be that successful. And, making money is just a byproduct of being in business, and being successful in business, you need to have a very strong why. So if you look at that, I guess, on a gamification level, our main focus is to build out an incredible range of experiences that allow people to engage at all different levels. But there is the potential for people to monetize that as they see fit.
Awesome. Juju, does that answer your question?
Got it. Thanks.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming up. All right. Terry, I think I added you next. How are you doing?
I'm good. And I apologize if everybody but me already knows the answer to this question, but Buzzies. I know they're companions to the party bears, but I don't exactly know what they do or what they're supposed to do. I mean, they're adorable, but what is there any information on what they're going to do?
We'll be rolling out more information around that soon, but to date, as we've kind of leaked in some previous podcasts, they will play an integral role in allowing people to craft unique assets within the game.
Okay, thank you. That's the part I missed then. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely expect to hear more about that in the coming months. Thanks for asking. All right, Mo Meta, how you doing? Can't wait to hear your voice.
Hey guys, how you doing? All right, now with the increase in adoption coming, are there any plans to, should we say, centralize one Discord channel where we can have all of the most important announcements for all the different projects in one spot, especially for new people coming in who might not have the time to go through all those different Discords? Now that we've seen Monty come over to FLUF as well, congrats Monty, good job. That would be really handy just to have one spot so you can just click one Discord and see party bears, goblins, what's going on, jump in and jump out.
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's something that we have been actively exploring. I think, broadly speaking, like Discord serves a very good purpose at the moment, but I don't think it is, the ultimate tool for managing communities in Web3, unless there are some significant changes that happen within it. We are kind of in the process of doing an audit on the FLUF World Discord at the moment because it is rather extensive and can be very confusing for others. And I guess that is the difficulty, is it's a bit of a trade-off in terms of, access to specific project-specific knowledge within specific Discords versus one centralized Discord that could become quite overwhelming. So no concrete plans as such to kind of bring everything under just one Discord at this stage, but it's something that we are actively exploring and taking feedback on as we continue to develop out the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, I very much understand the importance of having all those communities separated because there's some people who really enjoy different areas. Maybe it's the cars of the Atom Car Club. It would just be nice to have one area you could go to for just those most important announcements, so you don't have to scroll through and miss anything. But thanks for your time, guys. Great show.
And that is something, especially as we move into Futureverse and we set up our new communications structure there, that we will be focusing on is actually, having a kind of one-stop shop for news across the entire ecosystem.
Yeah, I think there's two layers there, right, between community management, like actually having a community that people can spend time with each other, and there's also this layering of information deployment. We don't have a bunch of emails collected per se right now across the ecosystem. It's not unified yet. As we move into a broader Futureverse conversation, then we have a different, lens that we can take with that. So definitely something I think we welcome feedback from the community, but there's definitely a few different teams internally focusing on how do we best streamline that as one of the many benefits that comes from us rolling up all these different companies.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Cool. Algie, go ahead and start asking your question while I let a few other people up. And welcome, by the way.
Thank you, Knux. What's going on, guys? Can you guys hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Yeah, you sound
bro.
great. Nice PFP, bro.
So you've been crushing it in COD recently.
Yeah, I've been playing that. Yeah, I posted that on my Instagram is probably where you saw that.
Yeah, nice.
Nice, appreciate it. Yeah, you guys have been killing it. This Spaces is really cool. I think it's awesome how you guys are so engaged with the community as a team. This is one of my favorite, this is by far my favorite team in crypto, just because it's so, you guys are so excited about the project. I love it.
Of course. I wouldn't be doing this every day, and I'm sure I can say the same for Knux if I wasn't incredibly passionate about it. And, none of this would be possible without the community. 100%.
No, yeah, it's super cool, bro. I love it. And
I'm pretty sure you were you were our day one, man. You were there from the very start.
Yeah, at the beginning, it was us three. We were like, should we be doing this? And we were like, this shit is dope. I was like, we got to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you guys really got with Aaron, and it was just, you know what I mean? That was smart. I think it's all really worked out really well. And I just love how even Knux, all the people that you guys have brought on are just so excited about everything that's happening. I love it so much. But I had to come up here with actual questions. I couldn't just come up here with no real questions.
Of course.
And just you know what I'm saying? Yep. So I was wondering, people have been kind of some of the newer people shopping have been speculating, and I just wanted to give them a direct answer. Are burrows still planned to reveal unique traits? Because remember that was a thing?
Yes. So broadly speaking, yes, I think there's two components to that. There's burrows, and then there's also the sorry, 1 second. There's burrows and the potential uniqueness of them and future customization, and then there's the actual land component to each burrows. We are conscious that there has been a kind of stagnation in terms of the development of burrows, and there are some key developments that are going on behind the scenes, which we'll be able to provide quite a comprehensive update on next month on all things burrows. But we have really been delving in the background into rolling out a lot of kind of key gameplay mechanics for characters to ensure that every environment that we're building moving forward, with burrows kind of being the first staging ground of the Third Kingdom, really building that core game architecture to know how everything will interact. The PC VR build of burrows as well is completed and will be released soon as well. But broadly speaking, on that note, we've had a lot of fun building out the sort of PC VR experience for burrows. But in the process, we have realized that moving forward, PC VR, or VR in general, will not be a kind of direct priority for us because I think, for a multitude of reasons, one being that VR technology is still a significant few years away from kind of being at a point of mainstream mass adoption. And there's obviously high barriers to entry for PC VR above things like mobile or PC gaming or augmented reality, for example. So we will, still be rolling out the PC VR version of Burrows and allow people with VR headsets to jump in and explore the Burrows in VR. But thereafter, we'll kind of be halting any further VR developments and focusing more on desktop and mobile gaming experiences.
And real quick,
my bad.
Real quick, Alex. No, you're great, man. I just wanted to highlight for Alex, is that was one of the questions that we had from the audience too, was kind of around Burrows. Like, one of the things that Alex said, he talked a lot about, this PC VR versus mobile component, but there's also this Burrows has really transformed, and like from a strategic perspective, into this how we're starting to think about setting gaming standards for. Not setting gaming standards, but like testing and broadcasting gaming standards for like the Third Kingdom environments, experiences, etc. Right, Alex?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Go ahead,
I really like that. Yeah. I like that you expanded on that. I didn't even. Nice. Yeah, I was just going to go into the other thing I was going to ask, and the other thing I was going to ask is, I feel like I've never really heard anyone ask you to kind of explain this. And maybe I just didn't listen to the right calls, but you guys work with ASM, right? So what is your vision and manifest, I guess, of what you see the role you see ASM playing in I guess Gods and Goblins or the Third Kingdom or whatever the FLUFs and the Goblins and everything will be doing? How do you view the brains mainly playing a role?
So I think speaking broadly in terms of the sort of first stage of rollout of Third Kingdom, we're not kind of focusing on building a massive open world MMORPG AAA title game straight out of the box. I think it's quite a dangerous route to go down, and it's a lot of work to achieve that. Our first stage of rollout for Third Kingdom is more to kind of focus on the kind of hub for social experiences and interoperability across all different game experiences and assets, which will then allow you to connect into more kind of siloed game experiences, which help you gain certain assets, accessories, resources, and I guess reputational clout. So obviously those various different game experiences will have layers of integration with ASM and the ASM protocol and brains. But as we continue to roll out Third Kingdom and kind of build it into something that is a lot more open world, there will be more and more opportunities for people to kind of integrate their ASM brains into various characters and experiences within that.
Nice. To try to kind of build the world or do activities or both?
Yes, yeah, well, both. I mean, there's a lot that we're exploring in community co-creation and empowering people to help actually build the world with us. We don't want to just kind of basically draw out the entire world and say, here you go, this is, your plot of land, and that's it. We want to, as we said before, it's not just about us building the metaverse, it's about us helping provide tools to empower everyday people to meaningfully contribute to that development as well. So the AI component will be a massive part of that in terms of, we're already seeing obviously the ability for AI tools to kind of streamline or accelerate the creative process, especially for kind of everyday people who would never normally have that level of capability. And that's something that we're kind of exploring how we bring that more into the actual rollout and development of Third Kingdom.
Nice, bro. I appreciate it. I'll let somebody else get up here and ask some questions, but you guys did a great job answering. And again, appreciate you guys hosting the spaces. I think that it's really, really cool of you guys to just get out here and talk to the community, because I know you don't really have to. It's just you're doing it because it's fun and you're excited about it. I love that.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to address, there was something I just saw come up I think Metablock's actually in Discord talking about obviously the current status with Apple and risks it presents to mobile strategy. That's something that we're actively navigating. I think it's likely to be a short-term issue, but obviously we can't hedge all of our bets on that. I think as people start to see far more mainstream use cases and mass adoption for blockchain and NFTs, it'll be, difficult or, basically a death sentence for major companies like Apple to ignore or kind of restrain integration of these components. But there are various other ways around that we are actively exploring in terms of how we can essentially still provide the same experience on a mobile without necessarily having to download directly from the App Store.
Yep. Thank you for addressing that one. I was wondering how we could slide that in, so you made that easy. I don't remember if Crypto Edgit or Bill Evans was next, so whoever of you wants to play the honor code, you're allowed to talk next. You don't know. All right. Bill Evans, I think you're first on the screen, so I know what you're here to talk about, so why don't you give a little bit of an overview about what you're up here to talk through or ask.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for having me and hosting the space. Really enjoying that one, as usual. Maybe some of you know that I have launched Vatessia, the historian, a goblin character, and we had our Advent calendar mint, and now next step what I'm working on is the archive, and the archive is actually a kind of a wiki, at least that's what I have in mind for Futureverse, for FLUF World. And yeah, I'm using it looks like Notion, and I wanted actually to offer anyone who wants to help me with the archive to just DM me. I can add you as editors, and then we can co-create this wiki. And I've been working on this the past week, and it is a I went through transcripts and from the lore sections, and I felt like I did get some work done, and at the same time working on it just appeared to me how massive it already is, the whole lore all around that. So just wanted to offer that to anyone who wants to help me. Just DM me, and looking forward to work on that archive to document all things Futureverse.
Honestly, just want to give a massive thanks to you for taking that initiative. That's something that we've been exploring, but as everyone's aware, there's so many kind of balls in the air that it's obvious we don't have time to do everything. So I mean, the sheer fact that you've taken the initiative to do that is really awesome. We have a law council within Futureverse that drives a lot of the strategy around this sort of stuff, and I'll reach out to you in the coming weeks as we're kind of setting the objectives for the law council moving forward, and see how we can kind of integrate what you've been doing as well.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming up. And if you want to learn more, I think that we added the tweet about that to the tweet connected to this Spaces, so you can click around and find out. It's my new favorite phrase. All right, Crypto Edgit, what is your question and or commentary?
Okay. Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Haven't talked to you. So I'm still trying to get my head around seekers. So I was more inclined to keep my seekers instead of giving them away. My question is about the backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Will the backgrounds play any role? And there won't be any mechanic to be able to swap backgrounds before we can sacrifice. Is that correct?
So yes, the option for swapping backgrounds with seekers won't take effect until after the sacrifice. And one thing that I can say there as well is that the void background is not a swappable background. If you swap a scene into a void seeker, then that seeker is no longer in the void, and you can't put something else into the void.
Okay.
Cool. Does that answer your question? So it's that's like a null background, essentially. Okay.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, are the backgrounds, are they going to be real places there'll be worlds in the ecosystem, is that correct?
So yes, so many of the backgrounds that have been released, especially, obviously those that have been kind of developed by us, first party, represent components of the Third Kingdom, and we'll be introducing ways that, there's certain mechanics of utility around those. Some of them are more kind of external partnerships and just ways to represent kind of various moments in time. So obviously things like the young and sick background isn't a physical place as it is probably a psychedelic trip. And like things like the Ukraine charity one, obviously there's other kind of means behind those sorts of ones. But yes, broadly speaking, many of the scenes are actually just representing places within the Third Kingdom broadly, and there will be some components of how those kind of play into various stages of utility.
Cool. And one last one, and maybe an opportunity for an alpha. Since we're gonna enter the year of the rabbit, will there be any specific airdrops for any specific rabbit traits?
I can't confirm anything on that front. We obviously want to kind of bring as much joy to life with Year of the Rabbit as well, but I can't confirm anything just yet.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great questions.
Take care.
All right. We've got music, NFTs, and then no credits is back. We're doing pretty well, I think, on time, so I'm happy to just keep funneling through those. And then when we come up to gaps or interesting other topics where I can kind of dovetail in, I do have some other community questions we can pull from as well. So music, NFTs, if you don't mind, what's your question for both of us?
All right, guys. Greetings. It's always a pleasure. A little bit ago, you said that Gods and Goblins will be its own ecosystem, and sacrificing seekers would get you an amulet. And then we also know that goblins are separate from the amulet thing. So my question is, we know about the goblins, but what is the gods all about?
Wow, we can't give away too much. I think just to clarify to that first point, broadly speaking, I think it's how we look at what Knux was saying was more around how we're dealing with product strategy and the product teams within Futureverse. Gods and goblins, can and do in certain stages exist within Third Kingdom, which obviously where various other elements of FLUF World exist as well. So this isn't like they're entirely separate worlds that are disconnected, but the way that we are building dedicated teams around them to ensure consistent development is to kind of set those up as separate bases. On the God side of things, you're just going to have to wait and see.
Well, all right.
All right.
Appreciate
all right.
The valiant effort, though. That was a good attempt to get some pretty insane alpha. All right, I have a few people I'm going to let up. You get to go again, no credits, since you did ask while I was grabbing some people to bring up. So please go ahead and ask a question, then I'll ask a few that I'm seeing in Discord. Though I will tell you, it's very hard to keep track of Discord questions while I'm doing this at the same time.
I appreciate the opportunity, and sorry for hogging the mic. I started an initiative yesterday called the Ghost Army, which was asking some friends of mine who might be pledging their seekers to at least download the FBX files first, or the 3D files, and putting them in a Dropbox folder that we could actually utilize later to create the Ghost Army. And I was just wanting to double check. If someone pledges a seeker and it gets sacrificed, that's like burnt, correct? It's gone forever, and that particular model would never be able to be downloaded or used again?
Broadly speaking, yes. We're always exploring other fun gamification mechanics, so there may be some surprises on that front. But I do like the idea of a ghost army.
Okay, well, I wouldn't want to, start something that would then be sort of against something you guys do in the future. So is that something we can kind of move towards? Is at least downloading some of these 3D files that we could utilize as a community at a later date?
What's that, sorry?
I just saying that is that initiative something that would be okayed by you guys? In terms of downloading these files to use as a community at a later date?
Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. Obviously, there's, in terms of how we look at licensing of assets and the ability for people to use them, there's kind of, I guess it's a bit of a grey area in terms of licensing, but yeah, I see no problem with that.
Yeah, my idea was that there would be no ownership, that it would be something that we could put these models into some kind of animation or, do something with them at a later date that belonged to the community rather than any one person.
Yeah, no, I like that initiative. Go for it.
Okay, cool. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
You cool if we keep going, Alex?
Yep. Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. Bildo Verde, how you doing?
Hey, doing pretty good. Just speaking on that real quick. I think you rugged maybe for like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, almost like maybe you got a phone call, but everything was back. Hear you loud and clear now. Thank you guys for taking some time. I wanted to see if we could talk a little bit or maybe get a little bit more clarity on Root and what's next for that. I think we kind of know that TNL would be the first step in bridging those characters and potentially bags over. So I was kind of wondering maybe if there's any more timeline on that, and if so, without maybe saying a timeline, would Gods and Goblins and the Sacrifice be happening on Root, or what we might be able to expect next from Root after the TNL?
Broadly speaking, expect all future assets from FLUF World, at least, to happen on Root. Obviously, there's the ability for people to kind of bridge those back to Ethereum if they choose to. But yeah, you're right. Obviously, we've already announced that the first stage of kind of Root will start with TNL and Gods and Goblins shortly afterwards. So given the existing timeline, obviously already discussed around Gods and Goblins, you should be able to deduct that that's happening very soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated.
Of course.
And lots of folks are asking, when Root, in terms of, because obviously the Root network is already launched, and to your point, we're building everything from now on from an application layer standpoint on the Root network.
Exactly.
In terms of the token, what are our publicly available way to say, hold on to your horses?
I think you just did.
Okay.
But yeah, to your point, the Root network is live. We can, drop assets and utilize assets on the Root network right now. But, obviously we need to have the applications in place to allow people to actually engage with those assets as they would on Ethereum. And those are all kind of in the final stages of development.
Beautiful. Thank you. Let's see, who's this? Crypto Chef, how you doing?
Hey guys, how's it going? I can also confirm it rugged for about 15-20 seconds, but everything seems to be working now. Huge supporter of what you guys are doing. Big collector over here. And I think it's more like hold on to your bears and your bunnies versus hold on to your horses.
Well said.
Wait,
but seriously. But I would just love to hear about how you guys are approaching brand partnerships moving forward, and how you guys are thinking about integrating whether those are traditional brands or IP holders or anything like that into the overall ecosystem. Obviously, you guys have had a few major launches and announcements, but would love to just hear kind of how you guys are thinking about it.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two layers to it. Obviously, Aaron, for better or for worse, loves to tease the partnerships that are still very confidential. which can be both exciting and infuriating, I'm sure, even for myself. But broadly speaking, I mean, one of the big components of Futureverse was being able to leverage, all of the incredible tech and community that we have to kind of bring in these partnerships. And there are some more, oh my God, I'm going to sound like Aaron now. There's some really massive partnerships
bazookas
to come. A lot of that is now being handled more directly at the sort of Futureverse level. And as we start to bring in, you'll see, over the coming months, a lot of different partnerships from kind of traditional brands, IP rights holders, some key kind of content from, the Hollywood realm, and, different sorts of, I guess, applications and experiences that many of you would actually kind of play with on a regular, or brands that you engage with on a regular basis. There's also, I guess, a lower tier of kind of partnerships that are done more on the brand level. So if we're talking like direct partnerships with FLUF World, as I said, a lot of the partnerships are being driven at the kind of Futureverse level, but we'll still be kind of introducing smaller partnerships on the kind of direct brand level. And in many cases, those may be more around kind of community co-creation.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. And then just one final question, if that's okay. Would love to just hear kind of your point of view on, the interoperability across different metaverse games and kind of how you guys are thinking through, whether those are existing metaverses like Decentraland or new things that are popping up like Wilder World. Would love to just hear, if you guys are in contact with them and kind of how you guys are approaching kind of collaborating with other metaverses.
Yeah, so we've obviously, worked with Wilder World in the past and are continuing to do so. Obviously, other partners, Jadu, Crypto Walkers, etc. There was actually a really extensive report produced by a group called Lighthouse, called The Road to Interoperability, which had contributions from some of our key partners like Outlier Ventures in there as well. Definitely worth kind of delving into that if you have the time. It really helps to kind of set the scene of what's required to actually achieve interoperability. And it's something that we're actively exploring as well, because, interoperability is such a kind of broad word, and generally most people kind of talk about interoperability just on the asset layer. But there's also, other layers in which interoperability exists as well. One being, the infrastructure layer. If we look at, this is why we've kind of built the root network, is because it allows us to provide interoperability across multiple blockchains, as opposed to kind of building walls between blockchains, and also kind of interoperability of like identity, I think, is a big component that a lot of people don't really focus on. How you kind of manage your identity within Web3 for a seamless experience across multiple applications is something that we have been building out a lot. We touch on that a fair bit in the Futureverse white paper, and the team at Centra Pass have been doing some incredible work on rolling that out. You actually start to see that come to light very soon. On the asset interoperability front, we'll touch on that a lot more as we start to introduce more components of the Third Kingdom and how that will work. But it's definitely something that we are actively exploring and understanding how we work with different partners to ensure that we can achieve that.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And I can second that report is phenomenal. Jonathan is a good friend and did an excellent job on that report. So I definitely recommend everyone reading that.
Nice. Cheers, buddy. Thank you for coming out. So, nobody has raised their hand to come up. I have a few questions from kind of Discord broad folks, but if you're in the audience, you're not rugged, you're here, you're listening, we probably got another 5 minutes or so to answer some questions. Alex, I wanted to give you an opportunity to hit a bunch of questions at once. something you and I have talked about a lot recently is kind of framing of expectations. I think that, over the course of our journey with FLUF World, as we've moved into now Futureverse, this broader conversation, one of the places where I feel like, from my perspective, spending time in the Discord, people have a lot of questions around the when is related to things that we've talked about, like distinct individual products, and their place in the ecosystem. And one of the places where I feel like that comes up the most is with Party Bears. I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of talk through what we've been speaking around, kind of the framing of Party Bear, for example, is not necessarily like from a brand perspective, anything like that, but just what it really means for, a brand like that to join and be part of Futureverse, and really like the gravity of that.
Sure. So I guess to set the context, Party Bear, when it first kind of came into being, was not actually a direct part of our ecosystem. It was actually a separate company, Shadows, led by Dylan Flynn, TJ Bredemeyer, Corey, whose last name I cannot pronounce because it's really long and kind of Italian. But also, for those of you who don't know, Corey actually just won a Golden Globe for the production of Benicio del Toro's Pinocchio. So, massive shout out and congratulations to him and all the incredible work that's gone on there. We, after meeting with the Party Bears team, quickly decided it would be the best course of action to kind of bring them fully into non-fungible labs at the time, and now Futureverse. And you'll obviously see on the Futureverse website that they are included as one of the companies in this roll-up. But there were definitely, some big kind of commitments made when we first launched, when Party Bears first launched. And that's not, something that we are kind of ignoring or dismissing. It's, I think there were certain components that were kind of eagerly discussed without having, the full research and development done into them, like accessory swapping being one of them. There is a major technical hurdle to overcome when it comes to swapping accessories on the kind of level of quality of assets that we have with Party Bears. If you're talking about within an in-game environment where things are scaled down to a certain level, it's a lot easier to do. We see it in gaming all the time, but to understand how we achieve that level of quality with swappables is something that we actually have a dedicated team working on currently. So that's kind of one key component of it. Obviously, things like party packs were introduced, and I think broadly speaking, people have talked about party packs as a Party Bear specific project, which there is obviously strong brand association there, but a key component of party packs is the asset interoperability and swappability. So once again, that falls into all of that deep technical work that's going on in the background to help achieve that, not just across the current those characters, but also once again when we talk about interoperability, how we set those standards to ensure that this is something that we can kind of roll out and build that infrastructural layer, so anything that we develop thereafter will be able to utilize that. As we talk about broadly speaking, party packs and like venues, we seem to get very mixed messages from the community. One half saying, stop selling new stuff and just focus on building out things. And then the other half saying, when are you going to sell us party packs and venues? So, we're far more focused on actually delivering out additional utility through the existing accessories. And when it comes to things like venues, obviously there's a key role within the Third Kingdom there that we need to continue to develop. If you look at like boroughs, for example, building out those environments and getting into that actual sort of game building was an incredible first step, but it speaking candidly, we had to kind of take a step back and assess how gaming utility and mechanics would work across all of our collections, and not just, in terms of FLUF World, but also across all things Futureverse, and how they all can come together under Third Kingdom, which was a lot of deep exploratory and technical work to actually achieve that, rather than kind of rushing into developing this next component, which would then, if not built properly, require a lot of kind of backtracking and reworking and wasted resources. So I can understand and appreciate that there have been, some concerns about the rollout of these stages, but, it's something that we are being very intentional about. And, once again, we want to ensure that we are building out as much robust technical infrastructure that allows the scalability of utility before just launching, more and more of these sorts of collections. But I think the key thing to note there is that, above and beyond and, second to only FLUFs, party bears are a kind of a Genesis asset, which will always hold a very high place within everything that we develop moving forward. And, the rollout of utility and value is not just limited to sort of, new mints and free airdrops that they may be eligible for.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, that was something, and I'm reading some of the responses now in the Discord. I think you did a really good job painting that. And if I had to add my own little flavor or summary to that, it's that there is so much that comes with building not only, Futureverse, but for us, kind of our focus, the Third Kingdom and how that all kind of fits together, and being strategic and smart about how we launch products from here on out, especially now that we are on the Root network and we have this broad ecosystem that we want to be interconnected. Just throwing a product out here or there and then having people wait for it to be useful. I think we're trying to take a much more deliberate approach to, like you said, swappables would be ready in the future. That's actually quite a Herculean effort in terms of the technology behind that, making sure we have some of those things in place before we start throwing too many different accessories, talk about the gaming components before we get too far in other directions. It's not to say that these things are not important, but, not everything. This is coming from my experience, now for us for product, but also my past experience in other industries. Not everything can be important at the same time, even though everything is important. Priorities, sequencing the conversations around what's the right thing to do now versus later. All kind of play into that. And I think that's really a big crux of where we're at right now as part of this. Yeah, go ahead.
I think, sorry, just to seeing some of the comments come through in Discord now as well. It's not that we're kind of parking party packs indefinitely. It's just we want to ensure that the actual functional utility of them can be realized, when they're rolled out. And, same goes for venues in terms of actually being able to utilize your venue as a space to host an event. In terms of, there was people saying, thought party packs were a free claim. That is a potential route that we are exploring. We obviously have a lot of kind of high value, big partners involved in terms of, well over 10 kind of big name musicians that, where there's a financial interest and responsibility to those people to ensure that, this provides value back to them as well. But, we are looking at different options of how we can roll out party packs that, still meet those obligations, even if it means that we have to just, absorb some of those costs.
Yep. Thank you for that. That was kind of part of what I was hinting at too. So you nailed that. Basically just that, even the strategy about how we release these things can kind of change and be variable as we get more information.
Yeah. And Algie just said, apparently we have to compete for a butthole key to get party packs.
Yes, he did. So next 2 weeks we'll be just keying it
if
up.
Yuga does it, like,
how much we got? About 5 to 10 minutes max. Alex, you got something at?
I basically just missed my entire last meeting, but that's fine. They
cool.
Do that without me.
Let's give these two. I feel bad if you've been requesting. I'm not going to let any more people up. Let's let these two that are up ask their questions. See if there's anything we can do to summarize, and then we'll call it a day. I think this has been. I've gotten some good feedback in DMs and in the Discord that this has been a good session so far. I think Jasher, I don't remember, Jasher Clayton, you were first, and then BTC Hornet. What was your question, or what did you want to say to us while you're up here?
Yo, can you guys all hear me?
Yeah, you sound wonderful.
Oh, beautiful. I've been rugged like 10 times, so apologies if that happens again. Thanks so much for holding the spaces. It's really epic to hear everything that's going on. I just had one question, and that is, so with party bears, the trait swapping is, the three things you can't trade with party bears is the fur, the expression, and the eyes. And I was wondering, maybe before the pledge, if we would know if there's anything that seekers trait swapping, if there's anything that can't be swapped trait-wise for seekers.
I can't actually provide any insights on that front at this stage.
All right. Oh, it's all good.
Yeah, there might be something
that's all I had.
Kind of, similar to like the heresy approach that we have, where it's like we've sort of said something in the Party Bears Discord. I feel like they've probably said something if you do some digging, if you ask the community what's been said publicly. But otherwise, yeah, I think use your imagination is probably the best way to look at that one, of what makes sense.
Okay, yeah, beautiful. Amazing. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Great question. All right, BTC
Good
Hornet.
Hey guys, thanks for having me up.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. They should be quick questions. We'll see how far we can go. And by the way, I'm at the gym. If you hear testosterone-fueled grunt sounds, it's not me. It's those guys over there.
Sure.
The first question is root network going live. Will the root allocation to NFT assets occur simultaneous with the root going live to us?
I can't actually speak to that. I definitely don't have approval from the Root Network comms team to kind of drive any speculation or confirm anything on that front. All I can say is that obviously, the first stage of kind of Root Network activation, as we've kind of already announced, is tied to the bridging of TNL assets. But you can expect the rest of those components to start rolling out afterwards.
It's TNL assets and the portals, right? The thingy portal paintings also?
Yes. Yeah. There was the portal thingy art as well component to that.
Yeah. And that's
okay,
just the beginning, right? Like these are just ways to get people excited, onboarded into this. But obviously we'll learn, and I don't even know it all, but I know that, we'll learn over the coming months other ways that this all works. We're building an economy, like a whole world, a whole ecosystem here. So those are just kind of little MVP approaches, I would say.
And will the thingy portals have utility beyond just that root claim?
I wouldn't kind of bank on it.
Okay, and a couple other quick questions. If I have two secrets after people burn, destroy, ruin their seekers for a stupid amulet, after that process is over, and those that have saved their seekers, for those that have saved their seekers, if I have two seekers, I'm just using this as an example. One has a void, one has a background, and I switch the seeker that's in the void background into the background where the seeker had the other seeker that I had. What happens to that other seeker? Where do they go?
Well, you wouldn't be able to switch into a background that is already populated by another character. So, like with FLUF, for example, you can't put a FLUF into a scene that's already kind of occupied. But scene swap interoperability applies across FLUF's party bears and seekers. So, there are numerous scenes out there that exist which are empty at the moment. So that's where you can swap those into some existing seekers.
Okay, got it. Then after this initial burn, sacrifice, killing event next month, what else could be sacrificed in the future? People have speculated that maybe FLUFs or eggs or other assets could be sacrificed.
I mean, I don't want anyone to sacrifice FLUFs. I love FLUFs. No, I mean, this is kind of, I mean, we have a very, very interesting, fun mechanic in the works, which I guess plays into sacrificing in the grand scheme of things. Shit, how much can I say about this?
You're doing fine.
I would say, no, we don't want you to sacrifice any of our core collections above and beyond this, but we don't want you to sacrifice any of our collections.
Yeah, because our collections aren't junk, right?
Exactly. But I'm sure there's plenty of people that really want to get some shit out of their wallet that they've been rugged on.
You've gone too far.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, I've got gravel from like 2 years ago. Then last question from me. If someone buys a ledger tomorrow and they set up their new ledger account and they have to transfer FLUF assets into it, are they going to lose their time held? If there's a future benefit for multiplier for time held for your asset, do you lose that if you move it into your a ledger or other?
No, I mean, as we talked about before, a big part of what we're working on is this kind of identity component for Web3, and that is to, I guess, abstract the kind of somewhat clunky experience around wallets and ownership that currently exists within the Web3 space, and basically, obscure that behind a much more simplified kind of user login experience. And as part of that, as we continue to roll out that functionality, we're exploring kind of the best possible ways to allow people to kind of verify their ownership of assets in a way that it doesn't matter if you're kind of swapping between hot or cold wallets, or, if a wallet gets compromised and you have to move assets, those are still kind of tied to your identity.
Okay, great. And I'm sorry, I had one last quick question.
How much are you benching?
It's like
I'm not benching today. Yeah, it's like that.
Okay.
Oh my God, my question. Now you made me forget my fucking question. What was it? What were you just talking about?
Identity.
Ledger. Fuck, what was it?
You can always go in the Discord and ask us if you forgot. It's not a big deal. Because we got to wrap up.
All right.
Both of us have a meeting to hop to. But seriously, thank you. Those were all really great questions. Thank you for coming up, and enjoy your workout. Let us know if you hit any PRs today. Sweet.
Nice.
That was really good. That was a really good AMA, Alex. I really enjoyed doing that with you. We'll do another something in the next month or so, and I think we'll have a lot more to talk about. So I'm definitely excited about that. If you didn't hear me at the beginning, please join us in our FLUF World Discord, which you can click by going to the Twitter profile here and join us, and go listen to Sounds of the Underground with some of our favorite DJs from the community. Thank you all for joining, and we look forward to talking to you all soon. Always, please give your feedback via Discord, Twitter, etc., and how we can do this better. But I think this went really well. So thanks for everybody's time, and thank you, Alex. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Peace.
Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and maybe consider watching one of my other videos. Bunnies up!